All right. Hey guys, if you're watching this, this is an interview I'm doing with Rachel. Yay.
Right.
So Rachel recently well, she published her first poetry book. This is your first one, right?
Yeah, this is my first one. I also had my copy right here too. So.
Yes. It's called Swiftly. Please go purchase it on Amazon. Is that the only outlet for now that you know of?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the only outlet I know of right now. There is something on Amazon you can select for like extended distribution where potentially other retailers could sell it. They just won't tell me what they are.
Yeah.
And then if I do see it other places, I will update like where I can sell it at the time. But because I went through Amazon self-publishing, I can only sell it on Amazon right now, sadly.
Okay. Okay then. I will provide the link for that after this is over. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about her first book, her first publication. And yeah, I have a ton of questions about this. This
Okay.
was such I didn't get to finish it, but
It's
I
okay.
thought yeah, I have so many things I had to say about it. So the first thing I want to know actually is um like talk to me how this all began, like your interest of writing poetry to like the book itself happening.
Okay. So with poetry itself, I don't remember quite when it started. I think my first memory of ever writing a poem was I was like in the fifth grade. And we had this thing where each week we had to do a creative writing assignment. And so it started out with a lot of people doing short stories and, as best as you could write when you're in the fifth grade at, age 9, 10. And I remember just asking for some reason if I could write a poem. And I don't really remember why I was interested in doing that. I just sort of asked and she said yes. And that was the first real memory I had of writing a poem just all together. And then I kind of casually kept writing throughout my time. As I got older, I started picking it up more when I was in high school. And this was in the big phase where I was on Tumblr. So, I was trying to have a very Tumblr aesthetic of being into
Yeah.
poetry. That's when I started actually investing in it and reading more poetry than just me seeing posts on Tumblr. And then I started reading it more. I started writing a lot more in college, and it's been interesting watching my writing evolve from where it's been even as early as I was 16 to when I was slowly turning 20, and now I'm about to turn 25. So even in just like a couple short years, you see the growth. With this book specifically, I was never someone who I always thought about publishing my own book, especially once I got to college. It's just kind of a fun thing for me to do. I was just always very scared about showing people my writing, and I would show it to like some friends, but it never extended anywhere past that.
Yeah.
And so when I got onto Twitter, I posted like one or two poems and I got some great feedback from people and they said they all liked it. And I started writing a little bit more. And since I run a big sort of K-pop Taylor Swift account, when Folklore was released, I felt really easily inspired by the songs on there to write more. So I wrote, I think, a poem about Cardigan. Really, I wrote it in probably like 5 minutes, and it felt just so natural. And then I had met a group of people who were also writers, and they all encouraged me to at least think about writing a book more seriously. So I was already starting that book, which is still in progress. And when Evermore was released, I was doing, I think, a set of poems about the album, and it came out so easily that I just kind of thought about it of what if I just did an actual book about Taylor's music, because this is obviously something I can do. And so I pitched the idea to one of my friends, Marta, and she said, I think that'd be great. I think you would be able to do something really cool with that. I was working on it in the background while working on this other book that I'm also working on right now. Swiftly was supposed to be my second book. I was going to do the entire discography, and then I ran into having an existential crisis about could I do
Yeah.
all 9 albums. And then when she started the re-recording process, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do all the songs plus the vault songs. How long would it take for me to wait for all of them?
Yeah.
So I ended up cutting Swiftly from being PS1 through Evermore to just going to Red. And so now we have this. So that's the book.
Yay. I love that. I love that. I was gonna ask you more about that because you mentioned, and I kind of saw it going that way, where you were gonna do her entire discography. Um, since you had already mentioned, like you did debut, you did Fearless, you did Speak Now and Red. Out of all the re-recordings she has released, she's only released Fearless, and I noticed you included the vault songs for that. So for the ones
Yeah.
that, for the other ones, debut, Speak Now, Red, is that going to be in a separate book, or have you put that into that, or no?
So I'm still in the process of figuring out, because obviously I ended Swiftly with saying I'll see you in 1989,
Yeah,
where I do want to continue writing for the rest of the discography. I came to the conclusion that whether the next book is going to be just one large collection or I split it into 2 books, whatever that may be, I would do a chapter on all the vault songs that I'll inevitably miss, especially with debut, Speak Now and Red. So that'll be separately in there. And then as well as any songs that I think that I have emotional attachment to, that I don't think, whether Taylor records them or not, I would also put them in there. So for example, if she for some reason chose not to do her own recording of Better Man, I would probably throw it in there as well. Or Eyes Open and Safe and
Oh
Sound.
my God, yes. All my faves, yes, yes. So you mentioned from the get-go you were gonna do the whole discography. Was it always gonna be that, or did you have thoughts of, "Oh, maybe I should just do songs I'm particularly fond of or inspired by"?
I thought about doing that as well, and then I sat down looking at all my favorite songs. I was like, at this point, I might as well do full albums, because there was,
Yeah,
for me, it was always going to be the problem of where was I going to draw the line. For my personal attachments, I'm really, really attached to Red specifically. So
yeah,
I would have probably done, out of all 16-ish songs, I probably would have at least written 10 just from Red, and then neglected other parts of different albums. I said if I just give them all their time, I'd rather do that.
yeah. Okay, well, that's a solid choice you made. Another question I had, I'm just gonna keep going with these questions. Why why title it Swiftly besides the fact that it's like a pun? I'm assuming it's a kind of a pun thing, like obviously, but why
Yeah.
that title exactly?
So this is gonna be an interesting comment. Well, back when, this actually goes back to me being on Tumblr way back when. I ran. This is gonna be so embarrassing for me to say. I ran a 5 Seconds of Summer fan account
Okay.
on Tumblr. That was my main thing, and I was at a place at the time. I hate admitting this. I had a small window of time where I wasn't necessarily the big fan of Taylor, and I think that was a lot of media pressure.
Okay, yeah.
Even though I realized I loved all of her music, but
Yeah.
it was because that was the social demographic at the time. I actually ended up becoming friends with a bunch of girls who stand Taylor at the time, so it was Harry and Taylor.
Yeah.
And the girl who I attached to really quickly, her name was Kate. I think she's actually still on Tumblr. Her at was called Thrown Swiftly. And because I was so close with Kate, every time I kind of came back to Taylor, I remember that she was someone who really pulled me into being back into Taylor. So I wanted to incorporate her in some way into this book. So that's why I chose Swiftly, because instead of it being like Thrown Swiftly, I just chose Swiftly as a title.
Oh my God, that's cute and that's beautiful, honestly. Yes. Um, yeah. Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, well, obviously it could be a pun because her last name, Swift. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's simple and it gets to the point, and yeah. But also, like you said,
Yeah,
you're
but
in a
why
sense,
specifically Swiftly? Yeah.
yeah. Um, so well, I'm gonna like tell you some of the ones I've read so far. I think I've read up
Okay.
to I read up to I think Mr. Perfectly Fine. But I
Okay.
have some notes on some of them. Like, let's see. When I read Cold as You,
Mhm.
My first thought was like, this reminded me so much of Cardigan, like their writing
Yeah.
in Cardigan. And I don't know, I think it's just the words like cozy. No, when you said, I gave you my large coat, that reminds me of Cardigan when she's talking about, oh, I like basically wearing my cardigan. And then like
Yeah.
cozy and warmer. And it just gave me those vibes. Which, by the way, another
Mhm.
question. Now I just remembered. When we the readers read these poems, do
Mhm.
you want us to also, do you suggest actually that we hear the song while we're reading them? Or is that like,
So it depends what you want from them. I actually wrote every single poem while listening to the song because that for me was just easier for me to pull inspiration at the time while I was doing it. So if
yeah,
you can read and listen to music at the same time, I'd suggest it because that's just how I
yeah,
interpret everything. I know people who can't do that because
yeah,
if you're like me, I sometimes get a little bit distracted. Um,
yeah, yeah,
but if you can listen to it at the same time, I actually really like doing that. So, and I did that while writing most of them. And at times I
yeah.
did get really caught up. I think it was, oh God, where was it? I think it was on 15. I caught myself actually writing out the lyrics to it at one point instead because I was doing it on my computer instead of actually
Yeah,
writing the poem. And I was going,
yeah,
I looked at it and I was going, that's not my words.
yeah.
Those are the lyrics.
You know what?
Uh,
But 15 I liked a lot too because
yeah.
when I was reading it line by line, I was just like, she's right. She's right. Like that's how that's not what we think about. Like we don't think about like our taxes or we don't think about the career.
Mm-hmm.
Like or we don't think about the younger years of like in high school or middle school, like when we're in our like classroom or the locker room, whatever
Yeah.
lockers, you know. And like when I was reading it, I was also like thinking back to the song obviously that influenced it. And like I think like just writing in general is so beautiful because it's cathartic and like we're
Mm-hmm.
able to use it to relate to people and like send a message.
Yeah.
And just you like for this one, it felt straight to the point, and I like that a lot because it was like
Mm-hmm.
it was straight to the point, and I understood what she's saying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of
Yeah.
my favorite things about 15. Um, but yeah, like another one I thought was great besides 15 and Cold as You. Sorry, I'm like looking at my notes.
It's okay.
Uh, probably I think should have said no. Should have
Okay.
said no.
Not good.
The description you used in that,
I
I was
actually don't
like,
remember what I wrote. Oh, I'm thinking about what I wrote for half these, and I was like, what did I write? um,
yeah,
because it feels like such a fever dream long ago. Realistically, it was like 2.5 months ago, but it was
yeah.
not.
Oh my God, these
Um,
were these all completed 2 months ago? Was that the time frame or?
uh, no, so I started officially, I think, in December.
Mhm.
Um, depending on where I was, and so when I started the book, I did start with debut. I, sat there. I think I wrote Tim McGraw, Picture to Burn, Teardrops on My Guitar, and Cold as You pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think I wrote them in about January, February. I wrote them at 2 weeks at a time. And then I took a break for
Mhm.
no real reason. Just
Yeah.
other than I got lazy. And then I think I sat down one time and I put on actually the debut vinyl in my room and I ended up writing 90% of the book in one sitting, just
Yeah.
really easily.
Oh my
So,
God.
but I
Yeah.
wrote so much of Fearless and Debut in that time, and it was so strange to me because I think I wrote them back, 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 back. I just
Yeah.
kept going because it felt like it was just coming out really easily. But yeah, so that's why I was like, should have said no. I was like, what? At what point at the night did I write that?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's crazy. I mean, I feel like for me, I kind of have a similar way of writing. I mean, obviously I don't write like you did based on albums and discography, but I go back to something or like I'll keep writing like a bunch of different ones, but then I'll stop and then I won't go back to it for a while. Or maybe, it's I'm
Yeah,
not consistent, but when I am consistent, it feels good.
yeah,
Um
I feel
but
that
yeah,
very deeply.
yeah. Um yeah, we were talking about should have said no.
Mhm.
the description you use, I felt like I was that person. You're the speaker. You talk about the person's yours was a pair of deep green eyes and crimson lips that made you for a moment forget your own name and place my existence in a box of things omitted.
Mhm.
Like what? I just I can't, like, it was just I I may not like feel that, like, I'm not that person exactly, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You use, obviously with poetry you have to use like like not description but imagery in a sense, but you use it so well.
Yeah.
That's the thing that caught
Thank
my
you.
eye a lot with these poems, that you use it so well.
Thank you.
Another poem, you're welcome. Another poem that I saw it with was in Teardrops in My Guitar, like the ending of
I
it.
loved writing Teardrops in My Guitar. That was like one
Yeah,
of my favorite ones to write. It was one of the ones I actually kept putting down and coming back to
yeah,
because I had a hard time figuring out how exactly I wanted to say it. And
yeah.
because it's such an iconic song for me. It was actually the first, no, it wasn't. Our song was my first band song, but it was one of the first like two songs I'd ever heard from Taylor. So I can remember being that age and hearing it and just remember seeing her in that green dress for the first time.
Yeah,
It feels almost like a fever dream in my mind. But
yeah,
uh, so with Teardrop on My Guitar, it felt like I had to do it in a way where I was really, really proud of it. And I was also struggling to write it because I didn't know how to say exactly what I wanted to say
hmm,
within so many words. And at some point, I think I just rambled and then it just turned into this poem and it,
yeah.
that's what it was.
But you know what? Sometimes rambling does help. You need to
Yeah.
just ramble to get the words on the page.
Yeah.
I think it did pay off though. Like, I don't know if this is the final product of what you kept. Obviously, it's the final product. I don't know if this is
Yeah.
like how many versions you did, but the thing
Mhm.
that caught my eye like was the ending. Like, I thought the ending was so brilliant. And
Yeah.
I'm not the cause for your laugh anymore, and you're the lead-in of all my nightmares, and the reason my work is undecipherable.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just too good. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's the nightmares part that gets to me. The nightmares and the
Mhm.
undecipherable, because I
Mhm.
think just about anybody feels that. Like, you
Yeah.
don't really have to be in a relationship like romantically, but just any
Mhm.
relationship where you like
It can
for
be,
some, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think, and I agree with that. It was always something when I was writing, obviously, it was about a relationship, but with things like nightmares and undecipherable, I think when you even lose friendships, it haunts you in a way. And I think that's even
Yeah,
more haunting than most relationships is losing someone that's really close to you and then they're still there in your life, whether subconsciously. And
yeah.
yeah, you're still going to cry.
Yeah, you're still gonna cry. It's so like
Yeah.
impactful, you know. But yeah, that got to me. I'm like, yeah, I was just feeling it.
Thank
um,
you.
Another one was, let's go to You're Not Sorry, I think.
Oh yeah. So do you remember writing You're Not Sorry? I got a lot of feedback from my friends specifically on this one. They all really loved it. And I wasn't sure that's where I wanted to take it, but I did it.
Yeah,
Accepted it.
that's but that's what I loved about it, because I was not expecting that. I was
Yeah.
like, when I
I wasn't
think of,
either
yeah,
when I read
when
it.
when I think of a poem for You're Not Sorry, I think of it similar to like the previous ones, you're like giving imagery, you're using like metaphors and stuff, but this one's literal. You're literally
Yeah.
giving us stuff people would say to, you
Mhm.
know, apolo- apologize, apologize
Yeah.
like they mean it. And this
I
is,
think with You're Not Sorry, I for some reason really attached to the line, you don't have to call anymore. I won't pick up the
yeah,
phone. And with some of the poems, I just kind of picked a line and I said, okay, we'll go with that. And
okay,
for some reason, it was that line for me, and I wanted to build something off of that. And I was like, well, what if she just didn't pick up?
yeah, that, yeah, exactly. And then you
Yeah.
literally put that in the final line. You're like, the number you have dialed has been disconnected.
Yeah.
It's like, it's brilliant because like you're it's literal, and also
Yeah.
like literally we all like y'all felt that.
Mhm.
So do you like did you do for the majority of these poems, did you like do that? Like you picked a line from the song you liked, or did it change?
It depended per poem, and a lot of them, yes. Um, some of them it was just verses that I really liked. So, for example, with
Mhm.
Tim McGraw, I really liked just the in general chorus. I really loved to write
Yeah.
about. Um, some of it was just my interpretation of I took a line and then just tried to see how I like to interpret it, or if I would take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, for some of them, it was sometimes just one line that I could build off of, and that was one that I really, really did love for
Yeah.
some reason. Because it was great revisiting songs that I don't always listen to. Because as much as I love Taylor and her discography,
Yeah.
this is the sad truth. I'm not going to listen to Place in This World all the time.
Yeah.
So when I was going back to it, it's weird seeing it from when the first time I listened to it. I was 12 ish. In that I was probably about 12, and
Yeah.
how I looked at the song is so different than me now as an adult. And
Yeah.
it was great to see me just transition, and I had to put myself back to feeling 12 and what exactly did I think of then and what do I think of
Hmm.
now, and what did I feel at some place in between. How did she probably feel it when she wrote this at like 16?
Yeah.
um so yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say right now. I was gonna say what you did for this book and your next book is you put it through the perspective of like your perspective. What did I feel like when I was 15? Or like how did I feel like when I listened to this song? And like your perspective, obviously everybody's perspective is different, but yours was like so like clear and articulate that I was just like, okay, I get it. I get where she's going with this, where she's going
Yeah.
with it. Like I feel it, I understand, and I know where she's going through it, you know? But yeah, like You're Not Sorry was brilliant to me because I was like, I just like it. It reminded me like when Taylor does her like talking bits in her songs,
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? I'm like, this is
Yeah.
kind of like what she's doing in a sense where she's literally talking, but obviously using the phone messages so they would
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was another one. Um, Another poem I liked was The Way I Loved You.
Yes, I loved The Way I Love You. I actually had posted that one on Twitter before I even put it in the book.
Yeah,
It was just something I like to. It's one of my favorite songs off Fearless, and
yeah,
I just wrote it, and then I was like, well, I'll just throw it up on Twitter and see what happens. And a lot of people responded really well to it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just put it in the book then.
yeah. I mean, it's good. Like, first of all, um, I read Trapeze and I thought of Mirrorball.
So
I mean, yeah.
that was actually why I had listened to Mirrorball while I was writing it.
Okay.
And I liked the idea that Mirrorball was so versatile as an actual song. I was about to say poem, about how you're still trying everything to keep someone looking at you.
Yeah.
And I liked that specific line. And then when I went back to The Way I Loved You, I was like, oh, it's kind of similar. It's I loved you so much, I wanted you to keep paying attention to me, and I drove myself absolutely insane trying to do it.
Oh my
And
God.
so that was
That
why I was like, oh, I could just do a trapeze.
that is that is oh yeah, that is insane because I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is intentional, but
It
literally
wasn't actually
yeah,
intentional. Yeah.
yeah, it was intentional and it's great. Does that happen with other poems where you're like, well, this song kind of inspired me for this one, or is it
Kind of
was that? Mm-hmm.
some of them I think further into Red, I got a little bit more inspired by Evermore.
Okay.
I looked at some of it and I was like, yeah, I could see where some of it comes from. I had a friend when I forget which one she read. I had a lot of my friends in a Google Doc commenting on them while I wrote them.
Oh, that's
And
great. Yeah.
she commented and she's like, this reminds me exactly like Tolerate It. And I was like, oh, that actually was not what I was going for, but I was listening to it at the time a
Yeah.
lot. So that's probably why.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so like sometimes you'll just listen to like her songs. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's like let's say you're writing for the best day and you'll be listening to a song from Evermore. but that's just like your process, right? At that point, like that's
Yeah.
how you think and like how you do things, right? Or
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, so I'll typically like whatever I'm going through or feeling at the time, I'm one of those people who I obsess over a song for a really long time instead of listening to the album because it's just what it is.
yeah,
So say I was writing the best day, I'd still probably have a song that I was really interested in at the time stuck in my head. And when I look at the best day, I think I used them sing about a home, and I was listening to Lover a lot at the time.
yeah.
So I was listening to This Is Our Place, We Make the Rules, and so I used the idea of a place and a home. So
Okay.
yeah, that's why.
Me
It's the idea of
processing
like
that.
building a home. It's like the
Wait,
idea of building a home with someone, and I was like,
yeah.
oh, like the image of a home is like this, and I was like, oh, okay, a home is multifaceted, and then it
Oh,
transitioned into the best day.
I can how do you think of this?
It
That's literally
happened.
me, you know? That's insane. Like that's so smart and brilliant. I can't.
Thank you.
Um,
I was like, I don't know, I just come up with some weird things, and it
yeah.
happens.
It's like it's not well, I wouldn't say it's weird because I think it's like it's interesting and like a different you see things in a different way, I guess,
Yeah,
but in the best way. And
thank you.
it's like, yeah, um, yeah. Oh, love story. Love story was one where I was like, okay,
So it's so literal to Romeo and Juliet, but in
yeah.
a good way.
So like my question about it was the beginning. You said a vengeful breeze.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because this is a tale of scorned lovers, like not scorned lovers, star-crossed lovers? Is that
Yeah.
why?
So Romeo and Juliet was always the book that I had to read for like school. I feel so bad for everyone who has to read this because they should know that I am not the biggest fan of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah,
I mainly just, but yeah, the tale's a big story about revenge in general. When you look at and holding vendettas against one another, and they're just stuck in this world. So I wanted to incorporate, that revenge into the
yeah,
poem if I could, because it paints the picture of Romeo and Juliet.
yeah. That makes sense. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of it either. I have some opinions on it, but yeah, wow, yeah, that's crazy. Like, I don't
I get
know.
roasted by my friends for my opinion on it a lot. So
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, like that you would type these out. That's how you like you write them out. And you would share like the Google Doc with your friends. At first,
yeah.
is it like, did you do that since the beginning, or like was it after a while?
I had started. I had, I think, most of debut and Fearless done by this point, and
Hmm.
I was writing Speak Now. And then I had some of my friends that, for example, Hannah, who's in August, she was someone who
Yeah,
I added to it. My friend Curdy, who she's not on Twitter, but she is one of my like really great friends, and she also writes poetry. So I asked her to be one of my editors. And then I had some people that I know wanted to read what I had to write
hmm,
immediately in this. So I added them kind of after I finished Fearless, and I let them see it as it happened, and I let them kind of pick at their own pace when they wanted to read it.
hmm.
And then when I completely finished, I told them all, okay, I finished. So whenever you're ready to read it, go
Yeah,
ahead and comment on it. But it was really great to see them go through. Sometimes they were in different places. One of my friends who was in the doc, she's actually from the Philippines, and I'm from California.
oh my
So
God, that's crazy.
we happened to be online at the same time because it was a late night for me, and then it's like daytime for her. And I decided to write that day. And I sometimes have a process where I'll just write in the actual Google Doc of I'll
Hmm.
just type out like the title of whatever song I'm doing, and then I would write just my initial thoughts on the song of what I wanted to build off of,
Hmm.
and then I would just start writing. And so she happened to be online in the doc with me at the same time, so she watched me write, I think, Better Than Revenge right away.
Yeah,
And she was just so stunned because I think I wrote Better Than Revenge in like 5 minutes, and she was like, "You're you're already done? I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this just happened.
Oh my God. So like, what poem first Swiftly? The first book, or is the first book called Swiftly, and then the second one's going to be called something else, or it's like volume two?
Or I'm still debating on that. I'm not sure yet. It's all
Okay.
kind of mixed together. I think I want to give it a different title than Swiftly, but
Okay. Well, okay. So for Swiftly, what poem took the longest to write, and which one took the fastest or quickest to write?
um, oh God.
Yeah.
Some of these took me. There were poems where I try and write them in order of like the songs in the actual
Hmm.
track listing. Some of them I did just skip over because it's like I can't do this right now. Emotionally, I'm not there. Mentally,
Yeah.
I'm not there to write it yet. I want to say I'm not going to be surprised to most people who follow me on Twitter, but
Yeah.
I think want to say the hardest poem for me to write was I Almost Do,
Hmm.
and that's because I have a really strong connection with I Almost Do, and I
Yeah.
put a lot of pressure on myself to write something that was really, really important to me, and I ended
Hmm.
up sitting there for a long time, and I think I didn't look at it for like 2 weeks at a time, and
Yeah.
it took me it was really tedious because I didn't know where I wanted it to go. I didn't know where I wanted it to say. I think that one took a really long time. I think it was something in debut too that took me forever, and I'll know when I see it because it has a hard time writing it. I want to say it was Invisible. I had a really hard time with for
Hmm.
absolutely no reason other than I didn't know how I wanted to capture being invisible.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's also not the first iteration of that poem I wrote. I had something completely different written, and I went through it, and I was like, I hate this. So
Yeah.
I scrapped it. I rewrote it again, looked at it again, hated that version, scrapped that,
Yeah.
rewrote it again, and so that
Oh my
one just took me
God.
a while. Because I want to say the easiest one for me to write was um I think it was Tim McGraw. So yeah, the very first poem in the book. It was the easiest one for me to write.
Yeah.
I sat down. I wrote it really quickly. It's been always one of my favorite songs from Taylor. So I, when I started, I was like, oh, this is a great place for me to start because I knew exactly what I wanted to say. I knew the exact kind of feeling I wanted it to have, and yeah, that was by far the easiest. But
Yeah.
Invisible, I was like, I can't do this today. I Almost Do. I was like, I can't do this today.
Yeah. Oh my
They
God.
stayed blank for so long, and then I came back and I finally wrote them at the very end.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it paid off.
Yeah,
It paid out. They were.
sorry.
I still need to read. I Almost Do, but the other ones you mentioned, like, they were really good. I mean,
Yeah.
the majority, not the majority, all the ones I've read are really good. And I'm not just saying that because of the biasness, but I just really like I said, like I just love the way you write. You can tell it's your own voice and it's like your own. Um, this is I can tell like this is a Rachel piece of written work, you know.
Yeah.
You're so well versed, or like what's the word? I don't know what's the word. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's just like you give us your perspective
Mhm.
and somehow made us like put us in your shoes in a sense, and we
Yeah.
were able to see it what it means, you know. But yeah, I mean, I have two more questions, and then
Yeah.
we're gonna
Okay.
have to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, the first question is, what advice would you give to people when it comes to like poetry, whether it's like writing poetry or like the publication process, or just
Mhm.
anything related to this journey you've been with
Of making a
Swiftly?
poem.
Yeah.
Um, for anyone who's interested in writing poetry, I would say just go for it. I think I spent so much of my life trying to talk myself out of doing it, which was really quite sad when I think about it now.
Yeah.
I spent so much time feeling like what I had to say wasn't going to be well received, or that no one would want to read what I had to say. At the end of the day, you're writing because you want to. It's your form of expression. It's how you feel. If someone doesn't agree with that, whatever. At this point,
Yeah.
and it took me a long time to realize this when I was writing the book that, if someone didn't like the book, that's fine, because poetry is such a gambit of how you look at things, and not everyone's going to see things the same way. Not everyone's going to agree with your diction. It's so versatile as well. Like, I write so different from even my friends on Twitter who all write poetry. We all write
Yeah.
very differently from each other, and it doesn't mean that what you have to say means anything less, or that you're not as good or as talented. It just means that it's different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So if you write poetry, I always just tell people that it's completely worth to spend the time and figure out what you want to say, how you want to say it, what you pull your inspiration from.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of publishing a book, you don't need to go through a publisher, as we saw, because I did self-publish this. Try to see if you do want to go through a publisher, there's obviously a different rule base for that. You do have to submit a manuscript in to the publication, so that will definitely take more time. I did everything for free, amazingly. I designed my cover for free. I did the templating for free. The actual publication was free. So if it's something you really want to go for and you don't mind self-publishing, you can spend a minimal amount of money doing it. Just make sure you look up like how to format for online and your book size. That'd probably be the biggest thing, and write your manuscript in a way that it can be published, because if anyone saw me do this at 2 a.m. on a Thursday, when I was figuring out how to get it in the correct size, that was a journey. And being frustrated and laying on the floor. But yeah, it's a lot easier than most people would think, and if you are not like me and more patient, it'll happen pretty easily.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I think for me too, because I'm considering doing a similar path where I do want to maybe publish some of my stuff. But yeah, that's great advice. So thanks for that.
If I have questions, I'm here. So
yes, I will make sure to hit you up for that for sure. One final question is, if you ever got the chance to meet Taylor, would you give her a copy of your book?
I want to say yes, just because I feel like I should. I would want to just tell her that she's inspired me a lot, and this is, the process of her inspiring me so much as a person. Whether she would want to take it or not, that's completely up to her, and that's fine. But even if she roasted me and said I had no ability to write, I would be completely fine with that. But if I did get the chance to meet Taylor, I would at least want to tell her that she did inspire me enough to write a book. I don't know if I'd give her a copy, but be like, yeah, this is my book. Thank you.
I mean, hey, I think she would be so happy to see that, because every day, every hour, every moment, she's impacting people. And to be able to feel so impacted by her music specifically, that's like insane. Like, that's great. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I think if you don't give it to her, I'll give it to her. Be like, Rachel Madeline.
My friend Rachel, here it is.
Yeah, please.
A little bit off center. It's okay.
give her the 5 stars on Amazon ratings. I don't know. Give her a shout out. Yeah, exactly. But yes, thank you for taking the time to do this with me.
Thank you for asking me.
Of course. I mean, I'll probably talk to you more about it privately, because I'm not done with the book. But so far, the stuff I've seen is like so good. Like,
my favorite section is actually Speak Now. So I hope you enjoyed that.
Oh my God. Okay, I can't wait for Speak Now then. Speak Now. I'm excited for Speak Now. Probably Red. I feel like I'm gonna get into my feelings a lot with Red. Am I off or wrong?
I think Red's my favorite album by far. Red was, I never shut up about this, Red was the first album that made me feel very seen as a person in general by like any music period.
Yeah.
and that I wasn't the only one who felt specific things. So I realized this when I was writing other poetry. A lot of that was already inspired by Red. So when I was writing Red, it all kind of came out pretty easily.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm excited for the rest of it basically. The rest of Swiftly and then book number two, which will be announced. Do you know when you're done with that or what's the
Whenever
announcement?
I'm done with that, I've
Yeah.
already, I hate saying this, I've already started it, like the insane person I am. But and then I'm in the debate of this book number two will be the second iteration of this series, or if it'll be the other book I'm choosing to work on in the side part, which is just another collection of love poems, but has a specific theme.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't wait for that.
Thank you.
So
I'm
yes, I
excited for
can't
that
wait
one.
for all that. Yes. But yeah, thank you again. It was nice talking
Yeah,
to you.
it's great to talk to
Um,
you.
yes,
You
thank
do
you.
you.
I try to do my best. Zane Lowe from Apple Music. You know Zane Lowe, right? The one that did
Yeah,
like the Apple Music Awards interview with
yeah,
her.
yeah.
And probably not gonna ever be as good as her Oprah. But but yeah, I tried my best for that. But yeah,
Okay, great.
thanks again.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, so that's it. That's gonna be the end of our interview for this. And yeah, I'll like share the link. I'll share the picture of the link. And yeah, so thank you to everyone who's tuning into this. And yeah, thanks again,
Anyone watch
Rachel.
this, thank you, because I don't know if you anyone cares what I have to say, but if you did, thank
Yeah,
you.
yes. Do you want to give a quick shout out to people before we end it?
Before I end, thank you obviously to you for having me and wanting to interview me and talk about this book. Thank you to Amber, who obviously also encourages
Yeah.
all of this. And my acknowledgements, I do actually acknowledge three of my friends who are on Twitter, Chanel / Allie, Sabrina, and Hannah, who all were really impactful for me in this book and encouraged me a lot to write this. And they were the people who were in the Google Doc commenting "fuck you" the entire time.
Yeah,
So thank you, and obviously again, thank you for having me.
of course. Yeah.